Guests already seated, and I have lawyer Kwame Jantuah. He says he's simply a lawyer. He's also the former vice chairman of the Public Interest Accountability Committee. Good morning, lawyer.
Good morning. How are you? I'm fine. I have hope.
You have hope?
Yes.
So today you have changed. You say you were breathing, and now you have hope.
Oh, I have hope. It's difficult times in Ghana, but if one doesn't have hope, what else does one have? I have hope.
Elvis, how are you this morning?
I'm good. Yes,
Elvis is the editor for the Finder newspaper. I'm good. Fantastic. How's your weekend?
It was good. It was good. It was good.
You're thinking about it, whether it was good or not.
My weekend is always basically on Saturday, the rest. I work on Sunday full day, so when people talk about weekends, I really don't. I don't really
what you're talking about. Okay, fantastic. Well, let's get into our stories for the day. I want to talk about Vitus Azim says the government has failed as president is set to make announcements on his major strides against corruption today. And then also we'll refer also to the PDS saga as it continues. Let me just quickly read to us a story from citynewsroom.com. Nanado has failed in corruption fight, says Vitus Azim. Anti-corruption crusader Vitus Azim says President Akufo-Addo has woefully failed in tackling the deep-rooted corruption that is crippling the country. To him, corruption is also prevalent in the Akufo-Addo government. Speaking on Eyewitness News, Mr. Azim, who is a former executive of the Ghana Integrity Initiative, indicated that corruption has been increasing over the decades, but the Akufo-Addo government tops the list as the administration with the most cases of corruption. And I quote, people voted because the president had promised that he was going to tackle corruption head on. So he raised our expectations. So in my observation, he has failed because he may be personally incorruptible, but he appoints people who do things wrongly, and he has not done anything about it. So he cannot be exonerated from blame. I think he has failed. Then he goes on to say, people are sacked, others are suspended, but what really is the basis? There are half-hearted measures that he takes, and that doesn't discourage anybody from engaging in corruption. You see what is happening, and you begin to question if they are serious actions, or they are just taking it because people are making noise. If you decide to do something, then you have to do it seriously. Why must it take so long for him to get the lawyers and investigators to do their jobs? All right, let me start with you, lawyer. This comment that Vitus Azim has made, what is your take on it?
Good morning, David. Good morning, Elvis. And good morning to our viewers. You see, corruption is deep-seated. Corruption really didn't start with Akufo-Addo's government. Corruption started way, way, way back. And I believe it will not take 4 years of Akufo-Addo's government to eradicate corruption. And remember, there are various forms of corruption. It's not only money changing hands that is corruption. People coming to work and leaving early. People coming and not doing absolutely nothing. People doing things that put the institutions they work in difficult situations. All different forms of corruption. So you ask the question, how do you eradicate corruption? It starts from the deep-seatedness of it. You've got to be able to go deep into it and try and uproot it from the deep. There's so many things the president has to handle. Yes, where he is concerned, he campaigned on the ticket of corruption, to eradicate corruption. But the question is, has he done enough? Right, he came in and he set up the special prosecutor. How far has the special prosecutor been able to even bring cases to court. We look at the corruption cases that have come up. Have those corruption cases emanated from government, or it has emanated from the media, bringing those things up
to the fore?
And so it's very challenging at the end of his term to say that, yes, he has eradicated corruption 2%, 1%, 3%, 4%, 5%, or 6%, or 100%. I understand from the news he's going to outline his defense with regards to what his government has done.
Yes, the Minister of Information said that you'll be talking today.
At the Bar
Association
Conference today.
Yes.
Let's see what he comes up with.
Okay.
And let the public judge to see whether what he says is right. You'd ask the question, and Vitis Azim made the point that it looks as if there's more corruption this time around than before.
Yeah.
There isn't more corruption this time now than before.
You don't think so?
No, it's because this time round, the media seem to have gotten accelerated their investigations into corruption.
Okay.
And so it's coming up each day.
Okay.
I'm sure in President Mohammed's time, the same thing happened, but the media really didn't have the wherewithal to be able to do it. It seems now they have the wherewithal, and they are chasing it. They are chasing it, and it's good. If we didn't have the media, a lot of things that are going on today, we would not know. We would not know that it's even happening. The public, for me, need to support the media to expose these things, because the political parties will not expose it.
Okay.
If their own are doing it, they will not expose it. And the public themselves should point a finger at institutions that they see are being corrupt. So, one comes to the fore today. The question of conflict of interest is a huge question where corruption is concerned. So you look at the GRA situation today, where the acting chair of the GRA has rented her buildings to the GRA. The question we ask here is that, did she rent it before she got the appointment, or did she rent it when she got the appointment? If she rented it before she got the appointment, she could have said, I have a relationship with GRA, so I'm not taking the position. If it was rented when she was there, she can then decide, I'm stepping down because I see this conflict of interest. But she's still there. People would expect President Akufo-Addo to act on this quickly.
But with that comment you just made, I tend to find that in Ghana, we don't seem to place a premium on conflict of interest matters. It's almost like it really doesn't make a difference. We tend to find that there are people who are maybe on certain boards, you know, and then being on the board, they will still use their influence to somehow get some remuneration from different deals that they can do, without necessarily considering the fact that there's a conflict of interest. But I don't know whether it's because, what is it that makes us go down that road? Is it because it's not punishable within our law, within our legal framework, or is because it's actually permissible?
You see, David, when a president comes into power and he appoints his appointees, and they go for vetting, what do you see?
I'm not sure. Tell me.
Okay. You don't see only that person sitting there being vetted.
Okay.
You see a whole troop of his family behind him.
Yes.
What does that tell you?
Okay.
What does that tell you? That tells you that, baby, I will where you're going, make sure that you bring something back.
So there's a whole squad of people.
Exactly. There's a whole mindset that you're being put in a certain position. They don't think of the position you're being put in. They think of the benefits they can also get from that position. And so when things of conflict of interest are being perpetrated, we don't even see it. I think another challenge we have is our culture. The way our culture is set up, the way we look at people in certain positions, the way we look at even our chieftaincy issues, where we feel the chief is everybody. So when somebody is put in a certain position, when they're even doing wrong, we can't say anything about it. Because, hey, he's a big man. You can't say it all.
Yeah.
And those who then tend to open their mouths to say it,
Yeah.
they are outcasts. So we need to look at all these things and also look at the mindset. Whistleblower. Somebody goes and he sees his boss doing something wrong and he says it, he's the one they'll castigate. Not in our who say boss no A B C D E. And we have to change that mindset.
But we have an act that's supposed to protect people like that. So
do the laws work? Are we enforcing the laws? That's one big challenge we have in Ghana. And that's one big challenge for the president. That's one big challenge for the governing party. It's one big challenge for parliament. It's one big channel for those who are supposed to enforce the law. And how do they enforce the law? In some countries, the moment evidence is shown or something is said about some kind of act going on, the Secret Service and the intelligence services would go in there straight away. It doesn't happen in Ghana here. The president has to instruct the BNI, instruct all the other CID and co to investigate. But it's the job of the CID and all the other security agencies to go in there and investigate. You don't need to wait for the president to say it. Now, lastly, the people that the president puts in positions, the process with which they used to vet them, is that process strong enough? Because you find that they vet them, they put them in place, and they go and do their own thing. And I think President Akufo-Addo wakes up in the morning and he puts his head in his hands and says, I thought this person could do the job. I thought this, I thought that, I thought this. And you find that perhaps the challenge isn't him, but the challenge is the people he's put in certain positions. And that is one thing we should be able to try and make sure that anybody we put in a certain position, we are able to tell the people, this is the reason why we've put them in here, this is what we think, and also, lastly, in terms of declaring their assets, it should be made public, so that at the end of the session, the public can also question. This guy came, he's now sitting in the Maybach Mercedes. This guy came, he's now building 5-bedroom house. This guy came, he's now this thing, whilst in power. And so that whole process should be looked at. If we're going to fight corruption, it will take quite a lot of things through that value chain to be able to bring it on its knees.
All right. Elvis, your take on this. It seems like what Vitus Azim said, that the president is not necessarily responsible for what is happening in terms of the corruption, but rather his appointees. Lawyer seems to think the same thing. Where do you stand on this? And then I want you to also weigh into the PDS saga and all the goings-on there.
Well, for me, if you ask me about corruption fights, I think that we are all missing the fight, the ball, okay? Everybody
what
thinks
we
that
missing?
when we say corruption fight is the president. The president is not an investigative body. The president is not a judiciary. The president is just an executive. So if somebody is found of corruption, accused of corruption, it doesn't take the president to investigate the person. Neither does it take the president to prosecute the person. It doesn't take the president to pronounce judgment on the person. But elsewhere where corruption fights are making strides, it's not because of the president. It's because the institutions of state that have been given power to tackle these issues are on their toes.
But the president used it as a campaign tool and message and said that he will fight, which means that we've been set up.
That's what I'm telling you. See, when we do campaign messages, we don't interrogate the issues. We put things out of wrong context. Yes, if the president says, okay, my appointee is being accused of corruption, I've sacked him. It doesn't take the president to go ahead and say, I'm prosecuting the person. It takes the police to investigate. It takes the police to say, we have enough evidence to go to court. So if you look at the scheme of things, it gets to the point the president can only sack the person. Well, I only appointed you, and I can sack you. But I cannot say I am the president, so I'm investigating you.
Yes, so but can the president also not push the agenda a bit further and say to the CID, for example, I'm waiting for a report on my
Is the president the judge? The president is not the judge. The CID doesn't need to present a report to the president.
But
if the president sacks
the top
you,
executive of the country.
no, that's
so
what that is where we are getting the fight wrong. If we continue this way, the corruption fight is going nowhere. Because if the president appoints me Elvis, and I'm found in a corruption, something corrupt, and he sacks me, that is the end of his power.
Okay.
If I'm to be investigated, it takes the police to investigate me. True. If I'm to be prosecuted, the police must take me to court, and the judiciary must act. But have you asked yourself, since NPP government, what the people have taken to court, has there been any pronouncement from the judiciary on one case? One.
So what's the problem here?
So we are the very institution.
Why are the judiciary seemingly unable to give us results?
That's the question we should be asking. But we are all focused because of political gains. We all focus on the president. Okay, so we make corruption a political issue, a vote issue. But we are not looking at corruption as a systemic problem that institutions of state must be empowered to deal with. Okay, the president of Samsung, okay, and the president of South Korea, and the businessman were found in a corruption scandal. They were all convicted.
Yeah.
And they were all in jail.
Yeah.
The president of Samsung, during his trial, he found that he bought some horses for a daughter of one of the corrupt people. The state took the case to the court, at the High Court, that also forms part of the corruption. The High Court ruled that no, that is just a gift. The president of Samsung was convicted, gone to prison. The state still went ahead to the Supreme Court to say that the ruling of the High Court that the horses are gift, they disagree. By the time the CEO of Samsung is out of prison, the Supreme Court has decided that it cannot be treated as a gift and that he must go back to court and stand trial for the horses as also part of corruption. The prosecuting agencies were not sitting down and laughing.
Yeah, but
the president of Samsung herself is in jail based on that issue.
But then
because institutions of state decided to do their job.
Yes,
they were not waiting for any president to come and instruct them that go and investigate this issue.
Okay.
So you see, we will blame the president because he's the head for corruption issues. But if we continue to focus only on the president, and we leave the investigative bodies, and we leave the judiciary, we are going nowhere. Because if the president appoints me, he can only sack me. President cannot prosecute me. President cannot investigate me.
Okay? Corruption is a mindset of Ghanaians.
It is not. A mindset is everywhere. The problem is about, are we applying the laws? Why do we make, if it's the mindset of Ghana, we make a pastor the president. Because we need to pray to God to change our mindset so that we make a pastor the president. That is not it. You see, laws are made to put people in check because human beings, so long as you have no law, they will do what pleases them. So we put laws in place to make sure that when you fall foul of the law deals with you. So you see, we are dealing with the president as the head. Yes, he did it in a political campaign, and we expect the president to be ruthless on corruption. But the president's ruthlessness only ends at the point where he can sack you.
Okay.
But as to whether proper investigations will be done and whether we have a police service that is tooled enough to be able to conduct that kind of investigation, and then gather the kind of evidence and go to court, okay, and prosecute, it's not the president who determines that. Okay. The president is not the sharpest investigator in the police service, or is the president the judge on the bench. So once this civil society organization, all of us are blaming the president, I always hold the view that the president can sack you, but the president can't investigate you. Let's apportion the blame that we have to apportion to the president. If he's slow at sacking officials that have been accused of corruption, if he's not acting on some of the accusations, we'll put those blames in his square. But then, beside that, let's begin to find out from the police service what kind of investigation do they do. One of the reasons we created the office of the special prosecutor is that the attorney general is a direct appointee of the president. Yeah. And that attorney general is the chief legal advisor to the president. And therefore, the attorney general may not be able to prosecute issues that involve politicians.
Mind you.
So let's bring in special prosecutor.
Yeah, but mind you, having said that, the special prosecutor is also an appointee of the president.
Yes, but then we gave him special powers. Okay. That he can even subpoena you to provide evidence. Okay. And that he should prosecute people. After 1 year, he has been writing letters. After 1 year, He told us he has only one case in court after 1 year in office. This year we gave him alone 180 million cedis in the budget to fight corruption. And yet the whole of his office in 1 year, he said he has only one case. And that is the case between him, the special prosecutor, the state, and Mahama Yarega. Apart from that, he's not taking any other case to court. If we are fighting corruption with an institution like special prosecutor, and in a year, he can go to court with only one case, tell me that is the president that's the problem with the corruption fight. That's what I'm saying. The aspect that the president needs to deal with as to whether he acts, whether even we can blame him for appointing the people because he appointed, what check did he do, what kind of trust, what kind of mindset does he have by appointing. We can blame him for those aspects because those fall directly within his power.
Okay.
But then when the president sacks me Elvis, like we have seen in the case of, for instance, the allegation against the NYA people.
Yeah.
Now the president has sacked all the three people because he appointed them.
Yeah.
The question is, are you telling me that it will take the president to still go and investigate them, and the president the one who must take them to the court?
You know what? Hold your thought there. We'll be right back after this short break. Don't go anywhere. All right, so welcome back, and some of you have already started sending us messages here. Let me quickly read from Mystic in Sawam Edrejiri. He says, Nanado cannot be exempted from this massive and unpredictable corruption in his government because he is simply not willing, committed, or has the mantle to fight corruption. At the end of the day, Nanado will end up clearing his family and friends' appointees from unprecedented massive corruption deals in his government. We are living under Ghana beyond corruption. Chia. All right. Now, Bobby Big Boss from Teacher Mante. It looks like that zone of the country are the ones who are sending us the messages. Like I always say, President Akufo-Addo is highly committed to fighting corruption, and he will never and ever pamper any corrupt suspects in his government, like John Mahama did in his Yenti Ubia Animal Farm administration. Let's retain MPP and President Akufo-Addo come 2020 for good governance and eradication of corruption. So, interestingly, there are different views on this. Some people say lots of corruption, he's not doing anything. Some people say, well, can't you see he's doing a lot of things? Your final thoughts before we went, you were saying something.
Let's compare Mahama and Akufo-Addo.
Okay.
Under Mahama, a lot of allegations of corruption have been leveled against his appointees. He sacked some of them. He sent some of them to come and work at the Flagstaff House and at the office of the president. The only conviction that has been secured about a government appointee accused of corruption under all the years of 8 years of NDC before the MPP took over is Asibit and Abu Gapeli. Those are the only government appointees that we were able to secure conviction against. All the other corruptions, allegations against government appointees under Mahama, apart from these two, none of them has been convicted of corruption.
Okay.
Akufo-Addo's government, 2.5 years, the party came to power, one of the key messages is corruption.
Yeah.
Several, they told us, forget about even MPP appointees, they told us that even under NDC appointees, they've taken 21 of them to court for prosecution. We are in September. The 21 cases that are in court, no judgment has been pronounced on even a single one of them. So the two regimes, what is the difference? The approach seems to be the same because it is not about the action of the president sacking the person that matters. What we want is to get the law courts to make pronouncements to tell us that the person is guilty or not. But if you compare the Mahama administration and the Akufo-Addo administration, how many times have the court pronounced guilt in the cases? The only case that they are in prison now is Asibit and Abu Gapeli.
After 8 years.
After 8 years. And even that one was, the pronouncement was even made after NPP assumed power. So if you see the 8 years under NDC from Professor Mons to Mahama and all the people who have been accused of corruption, and you realize that only 2 have gone to jail, and you are still preaching the same message under Akufo-Addo administration, then you don't know or you really don't appreciate what we really should call the fight against corruption. Until we put in place and make sure that we are asking the police, what kind of investigation have they done? What have they found? How is it that the judiciary is taking that long to make pronouncement?
Okay.
How come, if we say corruption is a national issue, how come that the Chief Justice has not set up special courts for prosecution of corruption cases where they will sit every day, where Chief Justice can say, I don't want any case to go beyond 1 year in your court, and that we must deal with this drastically. Nothing like that is happening. Okay, it goes through a normal court process like any other a confirmed stealer is going through. Meanwhile, a confirmed stealer will be jailed in 3 months. Okay. By the time the case goes within 3 months, the one who was told a confirmed or body will be jailed.
Well, some people would argue that it's a little more sophisticated than that.
There is not. You see, that is the problem. Why do you think that stealing a confirmed is not sophisticated? Do you know the plan the person went to steal a confirmed? Who told you that just taking pen and paper and take a check and write and that one is easier? That confirmed, the one still a confirmed is even more sophisticated. Because that confirmed is running, you have to chase that confirmed. You know, take only pen and paper and sit in your office and sign some check.
And he has to find what time he's going to steal that confirmed.
Make sure that confirmed doesn't even make noise. But for check, you just sign some numbers in your office and pass through some corner and it is delivered. So is it like take that mentality that some crime is more sophisticated? No, we must demand that whether sophisticated or the police must complete their investigation on time. Okay. The judiciary must be given timelines to deal with corruption cases. Until the judiciary make it clear that they will not entertain corruption cases lasting in the court for years, people will continue to be corrupt in this country. Any president that will come will sack you, but you are sure that the police will not investigate or will not conclude investigation, and the judiciary will not jail you.
Okay, let me come back.
So you go and do it.
Let me come back to
David.
Yes,
David.
yes.
You see, I think it's going to be very difficult to handle corruption. Look, people have been shot because of corruption. Governments have been toppled because of corruption. I think the Ghanaian, and don't let us only look at politicians. Let's look at the civil servants. Let's look at private sector.
That's what Safo said is our mindset. So is he right?
It's partly mindset.
And what do we do about that?
And it's partly not fearing the institutions and not fearing the laws. J.J. Rawlings came, what did he do? He shot people because of corruption. He overthrew a de facto CPP government. He came in, tried to clear corruption, but when he became a civil president, didn't corruption still happen?
Yeah.
Then all the other governments that have come after him, have they been able to handle corruption? What did former President Kufuor say? That corruption has been with us since Adam.
Yeah.
And so, if we're really going to fight corruption, we have to have a selfless attitude towards it. And yes, I do agree with Elvis that it is not the president who will do this, but he has the duty and responsibility to make sure that anybody found being corrupt should be dealt with, and dealt with severely. It's not a question of suspending people.
I still believe the people are not afraid.
They're not afraid.
People are not afraid.
Not scared.
That's where the problem
I mean, when the policeman can stand on, or a traffic policeman can stand in the middle of the road and take money from drivers, what is he scared of?
Yeah.
Because the people themselves, sitting in a trotro vehicle, will not stand up and chastise the policeman. It's not, the responsibility is not only on government, responsibility is also on the people. That is where the major responsibility is.
I don't know if you followed the PDS saga and Franklin Templeton report that seems to exonerate PDS in all of this.
Is that report by Franklin Templeton? The FTI
it was
one?
No. It's the FTI report. Yeah. The government says that it's not a full picture, and so we shouldn't rely on it. Let's wait till we get the full picture. Now, I'm not sure where we're going with this. It almost seems, because you've handed this over, it's been handed over, and right now it's like we're waiting for something else.
The operative word here is full picture, but it's part of the picture. Both the FTI report and the government's own report that have been, some parts have been leaked, is part of the picture. David, so far as I'm concerned, PDS did not have the wherewithal to handle this contract. And where we are complacent is when PDS came and indicated that we cannot find a first-class bank to give us the guarantees. Let's consider insurance. And from the FTI report, from the highest echelons of this government, vice president, agreeing to change that precedent to insurance company.
Yeah.
For me, the moment it was discovered that PDS did not have the wherewithal to bring up the guarantees, the contract should have been abrogated at that point. Government should have then gone back to MCC and sat with MCC and said, unfortunately, the company that we chose to handle this deal could not fulfill a part of the contract that is important. Why would you hand over the assets of ECG, approximately 22 point something billion cedis, before getting the guarantees? Why? And it's turned out from the FTI report, it's turned out that PDS used payments of Ghanaians for that guarantee.
Yeah.
The other question you should ask, what was the role of Carl Bank in this whole saga? Who introduced what? Who brought what in? Who didn't do what? Because when you look at the government's report, the bit that has come out, when you look at their interview with Alkut, Alkut indicated they do not have the mandate to be able to do this guarantee. Their mandate only ends at $170 million. It doesn't extend to that. The guarantees that we're looking for was $350 million.
Yeah.
They couldn't do it.
So let me just quickly read this. This is a part of the report, the executive summary. It says that Carl Bank charged in an all-in fee of 3.5% for advising on the issuance of the demand guarantee. All right, and it says here, for the $350 million US demand guarantee, the total fees paid to Carl Bank were $12.25 million US. Of this 12.5 million US, 7 million was paid to Danwell for the cost of insurance premium. Okay, whilst 5.25 was retained by Carl Bank. Okay, and the table shows us how the fees were raised. All right, there's a table here, and it says Philip Ayensu, there's 1 million from Philip Ayensu, which is the source was, it says personal equity contribution. Santa Baron, $7 million. Okay, personal loan advanced by Carl Bank. Okay, and then PDS is the third one here that says 4.25 million US dollars. PDS operating cash flows.
What does that operating cash flows mean? It means the money comes from within us.
Yes, so it means that as they collect the money,
yes, but
they're using that to pay.
But that is wrong.
And
that is where the what you call it is. The deception is.
Yes. So you have taken our money and used it. Meanwhile, you claim that you already have the money.
PDS were supposed to pay a certain amount of money every year towards this. Have they paid it? Have they been able to pay it? So far as I'm concerned, this contract should have been abrogated when they realized PDS wasn't able to handle it. And
so
then,
why are we coddling this issue?
Well, when you look, there's one side we haven't even started looking at.
What's that?
The 51% local content and the companies there.
Okay.
We haven't even started looking because that is quiet. Nobody seems to be talking about that. But when we go into that, it will expose a lot of things that are in the FTI report and in the government's report. And look, when the government team went to
Dubai. Qatar, yeah.
They had a certain terms of reference. In those terms of reference, Joe Australia, when they interviewed Alkut, Joe Australia, whose name, Danwell, worked through for the reinsurance, name was brought up. Why didn't they go to Jordan and interview Joe Australia? Because currently, it looks as if the game has been played within Ghana. With all those figures you're talking about, all those payments has been played within Ghana. What was Joe Australia's responsibility? Why haven't we spoken about Joe Australia? And this 12.2 million that PDS was supposed to have paid, what has happened to it? Where is it? Who has got it? Where did it go? Who paid it to who? Maybe that's why Hopong Nkrumah is saying that this is not the full picture. Let's wait and see.
Okay.
But so far as I am concerned, you know, last week, I was of the opinion that, look, for this thing to go on, and the cocktail of issues in this whole thing, which doesn't seem to bode well for what we want to do, the contract should be abrogated. But I listened to my senior brother, Brobe, Sir John, no, not Sir John, Tarzan, on Newsfile. And he seems to think that instead of abrogating the contract, let's go directly to Malako and have some kind of working relationship with them whereby we would hire them to put the management system in place for ECG. Because the challenge with ECG is not that they don't have competent people to run electricity distribution. They have it. It is the management of it. And I seem to be, you know, agreeing with him. Because seriously, something still has to be done about ECG. Look at the amounts of money PDS in this short time have been able to use to pay for themselves. And if for nothing at all, for me, PDS should be prosecuted for breaching that particular condition of them having to pay the monies first and not using our own money. Look, it also happened with Ghana Telecom when Vodafone took over. They're supposed to pay a certain amount of money. They used Ghanaians' money to pay that. What did we say? Absolutely nothing. And I think these breaches should be taken seriously. And I expect government to act seriously and not shield anybody. This is where, hopefully, the president will step aside and make sure that he cracks the whip. Because this PDS thing is an embarrassment.
All right. Okay.
It's an embarrassment.
All right. Let's go on to the next topic.
I won't talk about PDS. Why? You didn't give me the chance. Why not?
Go ahead.
So you want to deny me the
No, I
chance?
asked you earlier, but you didn't make any
No, we're
comments on
talking about this. You didn't come to PDS.
Go ahead.
And see,
We have a
this
couple
PDS
of
thing,
minutes, yes.
it's just, I think that a lot of people don't know how the whole thing happened. Okay, a lot of comments are misplaced. See, let me tell you. First, why is that the condition was changed? In the agreement that the person bidded for to take over ECG, it stated there that if we are taken over by the MCC agreement, the tariffs that Ghanaians are paying cannot be viable financially for anybody to take over. So the agreement was that PURC will increase tariffs before the contract is signed. So during the negotiations, PURC has failed to increase tariffs. So they say, okay, nobody in the world has money lying anywhere that can be given you for free. Every business transaction is financed by your personal equity or loans from a bank. That's why banks exist. So they say, okay, if the condition is that we need viable tariffs, that will make sure that our investment in PDS, in the ECG, will give us the return, and you are refusing to increase the tariffs for whatever reason, we cannot take that risk, but no bank is willing to give a guarantee based on these tariffs. You they need to go to the bank with a bankable project. And the bankable project is dependent on the tariffs that shows that you can recover your money. So there is no bankable project because of the tariffs. So they say if you the PURC, which is a government agency, you are refusing to increase tariffs, which will make it possible for us to produce the bank guarantee, then we suggest that because it's your fault, we will suggest that let's go for insurance guarantee. The question is, why is it that PURC, knowing that they are the one to do the right thing before PDS can provide bank guarantee, refuse to do it? The state also did not do anything, and the people brought their suggestion that if you say you won't do what to make my project bankable, then I am suggesting that let's go for insurance guarantee. And all the 17 institutions on MIDA board, including the MCC representative in Ghana, is on MIDA board. All say, okay, let's change it to bank guarantee, insurance guarantee. So why do you blame the private person when it is the state which has failed to play its role? If PDS had increased the tariffs and the project is bankable with their proposal to the bank, there will be no need for any insurance guarantee. So there is a reason why the thing was changed, and we should be asking PURC and the state why they refuse to increase tariffs.
But
is it for reason?
How exactly?
Is it for what? So so that's why I don't like when people are blaming the private people, because they did not force PURC not to increase tariffs.
Okay.
They did not. So that one must be settled. It's as if somebody changed it to favor somebody. But if PURC had increased tariffs, there will be no reason, and they will now have any excuse to say they should change it from condition, from bank guarantee to you must understand. And all the institutions who work there, if you look at the list, apart from the media rep in Ghana, all of them are government institutions. All of them are government institutions, state institutions. So why do you want to blame the PDS for fraud in that case if it is the state that hasn't done its job?
Okay. 2,
the argument people make that why did they use tariffs? It
also says
Elvis, we don't have to.
Let me say, a project is not that you have. Why is that contractors are all going around and said they've worked and government hasn't paid them, so banks are chasing them? It's because you present a bankable project to a bank for money. The second point is we are shouting about why did they use the money from collections to pay? Is it in the contract that I cannot take a loan to pay for the premium that they asked for? No. I am supposed to meet that condition, and you give me the project. You have your taxi. You said I should do work and pay.
Yeah.
And you said I should make a down payment of 5,000. And I go to a bank to take the money as a loan to give you the down payment. And I'm using the taxi to work. And I'm using the money I'm making from the taxi to pay my loan. You say, why am I using the money from the taxes to pay, man? When I've given you the down payment.
But it wasn't given a down payment.
Is that not the reason why Kwame said this thing was fraudulent?
No, it is not. That's like it's a contract. The contract says you have your taxi. You say, I say I want it for work and pay. And they say the taxi is 10,000. I should pay. No, the contract
us the money.
Please. That what money? So I showed you the money. So I went to the bank to go and take the loan.
Okay.
No, let me finish. I went to the bank to take a loan and paid you the 5,000 out of the 10,000. So it's left with your 5,000 for me to pay. And now I'm using your taxi to work. And I'm using proceeds from the taxi to pay my loan. You say, why am I using the proceeds from the taxi to pay my loan? Understand that by this thing, the guarantees, the money that PDS is supposed to pay to Cal Bank, by even this investigation, they say that PDS has paid the money to Cal Bank. Whether it is a loan they took or not, it's not the issue. The issue is that they pay the money as requested.
Thank you.
So let's not. If you
let me just go.
The concession means that the entire assets, the very day you sign the contract, the entire assets belong to PDS. The money that is from their making, what they use the money for is not your business.
But
so if they go for a loan, to come and take over your assets, and they are using proceeds to pay back, how is that criminal?
All right. So
let's not be. See, when we are doing our business dealings, let's not talk about politics.
All right, so our next story. Ghanaians are suffering reduced fuel prices, Petroleum Workers Union to the government. Now let me just quickly read a quote here. The fuel price increase is coming from the many taxes and fees that are being levied on Ghanaians. The taxes are high and too many, leading to the worsening of the living standards of Ghanaians. The tax on fuel alone is between 40 to 45% of the fuel price. Government must immediately reduce the tax to lessen the burden on Ghanaian workers. Fuel prices are being increased indiscriminately. This development does not bode well for the living conditions of workers, their families, and Ghanaians in general, and it must be halted. This is a statement that is coming from the National Secretariat of the General Transport, Petroleum and Chemical Workers Union of TUC. Elvis, let me start with you.
As for this debate, I think it's an age-old debate. The cost of fuel, we all know, without taxes would have been far lower than what we pay. But globally, everywhere, countries use fuel as what? A means of raising huge tax, because it's an easy way. Once you buy it, you have paid the tax. And because we are lazy in revenue from other sectors, we think that it's always easier to levy petroleum products to be able to pay. Right now, as part of the ESLA that is, and the things, do you know that part of it is even paying for debt of electricity? Electricity has nothing to do with even petrol. But we have put levies there, and part of it is paying for debt for electricity, because it's an easy way. Once you buy the petrol, you have paid. So all along, some of us have said that the taxes, if we can do something, let's reduce these taxes and get the Ghanaian an opportunity to break, because the taxes are just law you put in place that compels me to pay. That is not the actual value of the product. Okay. So for the taxes on this product, I believe that government should find alternative ways of raising revenue and stop this, because this is a consumer tax, and when you increase consumer tax, you put more burden on the ordinary people, especially those who can't pay. And therefore, it's difficult when you are increasing consumer taxes, even though it's easy to raise the revenue, but you are overburdening the ordinary person. Okay. So for me, taxes on this thing, we always say, and I've held my position that taxes, if I had my way, should not be more than 20% on any petroleum product, so that the ordinary Ghanaian can breathe a sigh of relief. Because this thing is not that the fuel prices and the world market has gone up. It's because of the mid-year review budget, where government has gone to increase the ESLA levies. That is why we have the latest increment. Okay. So obviously, it could have been avoided if we were raising the revenue from elsewhere.
Thank you, Elvis. Kwame, so Elvis is suggesting that it's laziness of thinking and lack of creativity that is making the government just choose only the, or majorly the fuel to just increase the tax. What is your take on that?
What alternatives does government have?
Widen the
tax. If widen the tax next. To pay rent tax, rent,
property tax,
millions.
I thought you asked let him.
What alternative do they have? And yes, I strongly agree that we're being lazy. Look at the oil revenue. Because the oil revenue comes like a tsunami, government feels that is the one we should concentrate on to use to build the things that we want to do. Instead of using it in such a way that it filters into all the different sectors of the economy. No, they are concentrating it, using it to concentrate on one thing. There are so many things. Look, what your program you did with the police.
Yes.
In stopping
war against indiscipline.
Exactly. How much did they raise?
Over 300,000 already.
A lot of money.
Yeah. In a very short space.
Lot of
just
money.
monetizing indiscipline.
That's all.
And only in Accra. For small portions of
Accra. Can you imagine if we now do it countrywide? And if we do it countrywide, who is going to monitor it to make sure that the monies that are collected go to the right places? Who is going to do that? Look, land rates. Yeah. If we were to collect land rates in this country, looking at the houses and the offices and all that, do you know how much money we would raise? So it's easy. It's easy. And unfortunately, political promises from our manifestos are pushing governments to put these types of taxes in, because the election is coming 2020 and they need to prove that they've done something. You cannot continuously burden the Ghanaian, especially, key thing, when there are no jobs. Especially when there are no jobs. Especially.
Or even for those who have jobs, there's no increase in salary.
Because those who have jobs are catering for those who don't have jobs.
Yeah.
And for me, the job issue is key. And there has to be...
But then the government is touting its many, jobs that it's creating.
Like what? Like what? If the private sector is going to banks and they are charging interest rates of even 20%, it's still high. It's still high. When you compare it to other countries where they are charging 2-3%, when will we even get to 10%? When? Because banks in the country are only interested in short term. They are not interested in long term. And if they are not interested in long term, and there are projects that are long term, how do we create the jobs?
But isn't that in consonance with the general mindset of the Ghanaian, though?
Well, I don't know. It's in consonance with the fact that money is king. And let's make as much money as we can, so that we can buy the luxury things we want to buy. When you look at agriculture, you add value to agriculture, and it takes quite some time. And if banks aren't prepared to give loans for quite some for a long period, how do we create the jobs? And so it will come back to putting money in petrol, so that people will pay and the government gets its money.
Well, we're going to continue this debate as long as we are alive. Thank you very much to lawyer Kwame Jantuah, and then also to editor Elvis, Darko. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Please don't go anywhere. We'll be back with the next segment of the show. Thank you.
Hi guys, I hope you enjoyed this video.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel, The City Tube.
For exclusive Breakfast Daily content and other City TV programs.
Like, comment, and share with your friends.